Hello, all, and welcome to the Movie Bears podcast. I'm Brad Harris, and each week I'm joined by hunky, hairy, huggable homos to review movies and discuss film news. As usual, I'm joined this week by Jim Pugliafico.
Hello, and welcome to the podcast, everyone.
And Will Lindis.
Hey, listeners, viewers, welcome back.
All right. We're also very happy to welcome a fellow movie bear. His name is Mike. Mike, do you want your last name on the air? Is that cool? Or you prefer just
yeah, that's fine. Mike Lovins.
Right. Mike Lovins. Mike, that's like the awesomest last name for a bear ever. So Mike is formerly of a gay comedy podcast called A Shanty No More. And I had a chance to check out some of the older episodes online. Kind of interesting stuff. Mike, it's really, really awesome to have you. Welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
All right. So this is a big week. We're going to be talking about the new Michael Bay explosion powerhouse that is Transformers 4, Age of Extinction. But before we get to that, we'll also be talking a little bit of movie news. But before we even get to that, but wait, there's more, we want to do a little bit of celebration and listener mail. So big week for the Movie Bears podcast this week. We hit the 2,000 likes mark on Facebook. Woohoo!
Whoa!
If I had fireworks sound effects, I would use them. Does the Google soundboard have fireworks?
They're probably in there.
I don't know.
Do they have them? I'm gonna look. Any fireworks? Any fireworks? Okay, here's sound. You know what? I don't see fireworks, unfortunately. How about a trumpet fanfare?
Close. Yeah.
That's awesome.
There we go.
Works for me.
Yay! Okay, I'm done. Really, I'm done with the sound effects.
Really? We're going to hear like 5 more sound effects this episode, right?
Probably not. Anyway, so yeah, that's a pretty big deal for us. There are other more long-running movie podcasts out there that that we've kind of moved past the social media presence mark. So that's kind of cool. But even cooler than that is we have some listener mail this week as kind of a result of doing a little back patting on Facebook. Who wants to read a piece of that? Anybody? Anybody?
I can't even see it, so I guess I have to go to Facebook to see it.
We have a couple of them here. I've got one here from Danny Freeman. This was in our post for the 2,000 likes. Danny says, my response to a bunch of other podcasts after hearing you guys for the first time, and there's this really cool graphic of Maleficent going, all you bitches, take a seat. That's pretty awesome, Danny.
Nice. Awesome, Danny. Well, we are very, very glad that you love the show, and thanks for sharing that. That definitely made us chuckle. All right. Anything else you guys want to read?
Well, getting to it, if I can find it. Oh, no, it's not going to let me get there.
Gotta love it when Facebook is not cooperating. Well, I have some up here. Let's see. We have another long fan of the show. He's actually been on the show, Steve Bubba, who says, your tropes, drink, have surpassed my expectations management.
Drink.
I wear my bitch harness, drink, in your honor. Here's to the next 2,000. Man, we really got to have this guy back on the show. We totally need to get on that. And now there's a giant black pussy on my desk. So
what?
Excuse me. The cat. All right, come on, cat. Let's get down.
Is this a first for the Movie Bears podcast?
I think so. Anyway.
I'm not sure this is what I signed up for.
I know, right? I know.
It got weird.
Thought this was a sausage party. What the hell? Anyway, Steve, thank you so much for your comment. Yes, we do tend to repeat some of the same statements, but you know, it's I guess it's our thing. We do that. If you listen to any podcast long enough, you're going to run into those things. But we appreciate the tongue-in-cheek, if you will. So,
and if it gives people an opportunity to take a shot, grab a drink, have fun with us, yeah, go for it.
Yep, exactly. And then the last bit of listener mail is a bit of a follow-up to our 22 Jump Street discussion from last week. Mike, did you see 22 Jump Street? If we talk about it slightly, will you be spoiled?
I haven't seen it yet, but go ahead.
All right. Well, Graham Bibsby says that, yeah, 22 Jump Street wasn't great. He gives it a weak recommend. See it on a plane. That should tell you something. He says it was a lazy rush script. They could have done more with the human sexuality class, or the maybe the prison rape jokes were not so great. I don't know. Will, I know you loved this movie. Jim, I know you were kind of ambivalent, and I was,
Yeah, I think I'm kind of in line with him. I thought that that I think they could have done more and done better with the comedy that they had. But then again, like I said, comedy is so subjective.
That's true.
That's the thing.
People, and I think you're gonna get just as many opinions as people that you ask on that one.
Indeed, indeed. Well, Graham, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. Sounds like you're kind of in line with me too. And Will, is there a sad trombone sound effect I can play?
That's okay.
Anyway.
Yeah. Fuck it. It's fine.
Probably Will's head probably would have exploded from laughter if the jokes were any better.
Aw, we love you, Will.
Oh, it's okay. It's a comedy is subjective. And I think it made for a more fun show. Like, the ones it's great when we all are in agreement, but it's almost just as much fun when we're on different sides of the fence.
I agree. Sometimes when it's a love-in or a hate fest, it gets a little one-sided, and it's good to have varied discussion. I'm really anxious to see where Transformers is going to go tonight. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting because when Brad and I see movies together, we actually talk. I mean, we've talked about some a little bit, but we don't really get into. I mean, we talk enough to know whether each one of us kind of liked it or not. It's not like that we can't talk about the movies and we have to save all our discussion for the podcast. But I think we kind of know where we fall in this movie, and I mean, like this movie and like a lot of movies, we kind of fall in line a lot. I mean, there are some we've disagreed on. And have had different opinions about, but
right.
I think we end up close a lot of times.
Now, have either of you had to sleep on a couch because of a disagreement? Like, has it been that big a gulf where it's like, oh, fuck, I can't do this tonight? No. That was the best movie ever.
No. Nothing like that. Nothing like that yet. But we'll see when the next Wes Anderson film comes out.
What was the movie that you had to see a second time to really appreciate? Was that like? It
was Beasts of the Southern Wild.
Beasts of the Southern Wild, yeah.
Which I hated. I hated that movie, but I saw it when I was super tired. And the little girl, I'm like, God, you're so annoying. I just want to punch you in the face and bury you in the swamp.
Just let me sleep, God damn it!
Don't cross Brad.
I know, right? I know. Children beware. But then I saw it when I was in my right mind, and I was like, oh my God, this is the best movie ever. So that just goes to show you, that I'm a fickle bitch, I guess, when I'm tired. But anyway, we're getting off track. Thank you, listeners, for submitting your comments. We always love hearing from you, and thank you for helping us celebrate our 2000 like anniversary. It sounds like we're totally conceited that we're talking about this, but we're a small little niche podcast, so to get that kind of social media traction, I guess, is a big deal for us. So thank you so much for supporting the show.
A little bit of self-promotion is fine.
Yeah, I agree. Pat yourselves on the back. Yeah.
Well, if I can jump in real quick on that too, just the fact that like somebody like me, a fan who's listening and then gets the chance to come on with you guys is a nice thing that you guys do too.
Oh well, thanks. I mean, this is something that that we'd like to do more. A lot of times we bring on guests that are, associated with movies, but we've recently started bringing on fans of the show, and there's some crossover too. We have some fans of the show that are involved in movies. We had Mark Gelfuso on a couple of weeks ago, and we've had, Doug. Didn't we have Doug Langway on at one point?
We did. Yeah.
Langway on. So he's a friend of ours. Involved in obviously the director of Bear City 2.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, but this is something I think we should probably do more of. I think it's fun when you can bring in kind of a new perspective, You guys, you guys tend. No other way to say it. You guys tend to bore me. So now we can bring Mike on and get
There we go.
some fresh feedback.
Definitely. Well,
Mike, I gotta ask you, what is the arena behind you over your shoulder? What arena are we looking at?
There's Nationwide Arena for the Blue Jackets.
Okay.
Columbus Blue Jackets, and then OSU Horseshoe, the Buckeyes.
oh
Okay.
boy.
Okay.
Oh boy.
That's
right.
my partner's stuff. He's
All
the
right.
sports guy.
Okay.
What you
All right.
can't see are my Kiss posters and Iron Maiden posters on the other wall.
Oh, that's way better. That's way better.
Sports and heavy metal.
Yeah.
Right on, right on.
Can't go wrong.
Got to balance out the rest of our
Exactly.
the rest of our population.
Oh, absolutely. Well,
Brad
Mike,
and I are football fans too. We're sports fans. Not all sports, but
mostly college football.
mostly
softball.
college football.
Yeah. Fuck you, pros. Don't really care.
I just bring nerdy shit to the show.
Yeah.
Will's like football. Is that the orange one that you hit with a racket?
Yeah, I really love watching a good football game when it goes into the second half. You get to see who scores the most goals. I love that.
Will, you're pretty. You're pretty. You're pretty.
We like to joke that we're the football and musical gays.
That's right. We are. We're the
We can do
physical
both.
gays.
Yeah.
We're the physical gays,
There you go.
if you will.
Nice, Brad.
Anyway, all right. Well, Mike, we are very, very happy to have you on the show. I think it's cool too. Like, Mike and I. Mike, is it okay to tell the story of how we
Sure.
started? So I got a message from Mike on Growler of all places. Who uses Growler, everybody? And so we were just talking, about the show and everything. And so we were talking about Transformers, and Mike had some interesting thoughts, and I thought, man, this would be awesome to discuss. And it is cool to have fans on the show, you know what I mean? Because one of the things I love about movie bear groups is just seeing movies with hot men and talking about it afterwards. So it's awesome. So thank you for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Well, that said, we've dissembled quite a bit. So let's go ahead and move on to some movie news. Alrighty. So this is the part of the show where we talk about fun stuff going on in the film industry that we're interested in. Jim, why don't you kick us off this week? What's got your interest?
Well, since we're already going to talk a lot about robots coming up in our main review tonight, a bit of movie news popped up just, I think, this week, maybe in the last day or two, and that Kaiju and Jaeger fans are going to be happy with. A sequel for Pacific Rim is in the works. Writer, director, creator Guillermo del Toro put out a short video this week just saying that he's working on the script for a new Pacific Rim movie. The guy named Zach Penn, and is also working with the original movie writer, the original Pacific Rim, Travis Beacham. The release date for the new movie has actually been set already, but it's pretty far out there. It's in April of 2017, so it's it's a good almost 3 years away. So we got a ways to wait for that one. Del Toro is wrapping up production on his current movie called Crimson Peak, but he talked about Pacific Rim and his ideas for that, and he said that many of the characters are going to return, some of which some of us may like to see come back, and some of which may not. But characters like Raleigh and Mako, and maybe Hannibal Chow is coming back. But there's hints, I guess, of taking them into new story territory. And Del Toro saying that we'll see Gypsy 2.0 for sure in this movie. Maybe hints of possibly merging of a Kaiju and a Jaeger. Which sounds kind of intriguing to me. So personally, I'm looking forward to this film because really as a second chance to get what I think is an awesome premise and do it right this time around. Because, while I didn't hate the first movie, I just felt that it was a missed opportunity and a bit of a disappointment. But Will, I imagine you, who was much more positive on the first movie, is also excited at this news?
Yeah, I think this is good news probably across the board for people. Like people that like the premise and maybe weren't as excited about the delivery get a chance, the second chance like you mentioned. For me, Pacific Rim was one of my. It ended up on my top 10 list of the year
Right.
last year, which was surprising because it's like indie critical darlings and then bam, Pacific Rim, giant robots on my list. But I loved the film. I loved everything that they did with it, all of the potential behind the series, and what they, how they executed upon it. So I love the idea that we get this chance to take this new original property. I know last year one of the big things I said was like, it was like a summer of reboots, remakes, and sequels, and we didn't have any real like original properties. Maybe aside from like Oblivion last year. And then here comes Pacific Rim, blows me out of the water. And what I'm excited about now is that Del Toro is looking at forging into new, different territory. At least that's what he's announced. That's what he's talking about. So for me, as someone who loved the film a lot, who kind of ranks it as like the kind of my favorite blockbuster in recent history. 2017 looks very, very favorable for me.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we've got the 3 years to wait, and I will employ this time around. I'm going to employ much better expectation management.
Drink
This time around, but hopefully Del Toro will bring it back strong this time and make it worth the wait. And I guess I should mention that there's some kind of animated series, which I'm not that sure about, and I probably don't have much interest in it because I'm not a huge animated series fan. Maybe I'll check it out a little bit.
Unless it's Kimbo the White Lion. If it's
but that may hold us over till the movie. I don't know. Will, do you know anything about the animated thing?
I don't. I just know that it's supposed to predate the sequel film, so it's supposed to come before 2017. It's going to be interesting to see what they do with it. I imagine it's not going to be just like a full-on like series, although maybe it will be. When I first heard this news, what I immediately thought of was around the time that the second and third Matrix movies came out, they came out with the Animatrix series, which was a series of different animated sequences that showed kind of what happened with this character, or maybe a backstory here. Just kind of a cool thing that happens in that same world, just kind of fleshing things out. So when I heard this news, I immediately thought this might be an equivalent thereof. But again, who knows? This could be like a full order series.
So we just got a live comment. It's one of the things I love about doing this show on YouTube Live, from actually someone who's been on the show before, Mike C. He says Pacific Rim 2, 2017. Mark your calendars, movie bears. Of course, it's Del Toro, so mark it in pencil.
Could get pushed back.
Very, very good point. 2019. What? Yeah, so I guess we'll see. I'm about to drop a bomb. Are you guys ready?
I'm glad I'm not in the room with you.
Thanks. I'm actually looking forward to Pacific Rim 2, believe it or not. I'm hoping they correct some of the missteps from the first film. I'm not going to drone on and on about it. You can go back and listen to episode 18 of the Movie Bears podcast, I think. If you want to hear more of my angry old man dissembling about Pacific Rim. But I'm hoping that the new film will be a lot better. And having a successful Godzilla film come out, maybe Godzilla will teach Pacific Rim a couple things. I would love to see a crossover, but it'll never happen. Probably not. But Will's given me like the stank eye, so obviously that's a bad idea. Yeah.
It wouldn't happen,
Anyway.
but I'd like to see it.
Wouldn't that be awesome, Mike? That would be cool, right? Yeah. So
Mike, you saw the first movie?
I did.
Yeah.
Did you like it?
Or no?
I liked it a lot, actually.
Yeah, cool.
Nice. All right.
I knew I liked you, Mike.
The balance of power has shifted.
Well, like I said, I think it came down to my expectations. So we'll see this time around.
Yeah. All right. Well, moving on. Will, what have you got?
So mine is news that I don't know how to really take it at this point. So there's this film that came out in, I think it was 1999. It was a Japanese horror film called Audition. Really, really creepy, but really good Japanese horror flick. It's one that you can find it on video on demand for pretty cheap. It's one of those ones that a lot of horror buffs if you're a horror buff, you've probably seen Audition. So it's been announced this week that this film is getting an American remake. Which that's the thing that I don't really know how to feel about. It's by producer Mario Casar. It's the same guy who produced like Terminator 2: Judgment Day, Basic Instinct, The Doors, Showgirl. So I mean, he's got some kind of a wide range of like films under his belt as a producer. The director slated is Richard Gray, who is a guy who, honestly, I don't know much about him. I looked up his IMDb, hadn't really seen any of those films or heard much about them. So where I'm at with this one right here is sometimes you get these films that are really, really solid films that I think people should see. If you're a horror buff, you should see Audition. It's basically the story of this guy. He's a widower, and his son's like, hey, you need to get remarried. So he holds these auditions for a new wife, and then he finds one who maybe wasn't the person that he should have sought out to begin with. I get really skeptical about these American remakes, just because I want them. If you're going to remake a film like this, I want you to bring something new or something different or something stylistic or something interesting to it. You get a lot of these remakes like Ringu to Ring, or what happened with Old Boy recently, where you have directors who maybe have some style behind them, but end up just trying to just do the same thing that happened before, but now with Americans in place, and then it becomes kind of a pointless endeavor. So, don't know if it's going to be good. Don't know if it's going to be bad. I'm a little soured with on the idea to begin with, just because of what we've seen in the past. But who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, we all have our favorites that we don't really want fucked with. I don't know if that falls in that category for you, Will, or you're just kind of a wait-and-see guy on this one.
A little of both. Like, it's not necessarily like a favorite for me, like the best of the genre, but it is one of those things where I just want someone, if you're going to remake it, do something stylistically different. Don't just come in and do the exact same thing, because then I could just go watch the original. I can go watch
it's better.
The one that I enjoy.
Right.
Did you see Let Me In and Let the Right One In?
Yes.
Oh, I did not see the American remake on that one. I'd only seen the other one.
Oh, that's a mistake, Will Lindis, that you have not seen it.
Is the remake actually pretty good on that one?
I thought so.
It's okay. I mean, here's the thing. Like you said, Will, when somebody remakes a movie and they remake it practically shot for shot and try to capture the same tone, typically it falls at least a little bit short of the original for me. It may be totally serviceable, and but it will never capture the wonder and discovery of the first movie, because there's nothing new to discover.
Right.
It's just a shinier version of what we had.
Right. I guess we'll see. All right, Mike, what do you have this week?
Well, so out of the UK, they're saying that the Star Wars rumor is that Carrie Fisher's daughter, Billie Lourd, has been cast to play her in flashbacks, including buns and all.
Wow.
So that sounds pretty interesting to me.
Wow.
Interesting.
Oh, wow. That is cool. It's nice to me because it's one of those things where, instead of them doing some sort of honestly, with the Star Wars universe, there was a lot of criticism in the last set of trilogies of just over CGIing everything. So they could have really easily just tried to take a CGI version of Carrie Fisher and young her up for some flashback sequences. But we've talked on the show about how excited we are about, they've got live sets. They're actually, doing more practical effects. So getting someone that looks like the actress to stand in for the actress who's younger. Good move for me, I guess.
So wait a second. You do not want an Andy Serkis motion controlled young Leia?
Yes, that's what I want. Andy Serkis Leia.
If anyone does motion capture Leia, I want it to be Andy Serkis.
Well, he is in the movie.
That's true.
That is true, yeah.
I think he's going to do motion capture of everybody that they want, except for young Carrie Fisher.
And Harrison Ford.
I don't know. Does this? It depends how they do this, how they employ this. Using what's her name, Mike? Carrie Fisher's. Do you have her name?
Billie Lourd.
Billy Lord. Yeah, it depends how they use her. I mean, if they're trying to bring her and show her in flashbacks back to about the time that we saw her from the original A New Hope movie or those movies, and she doesn't look exactly like Carrie Fisher, it's going to take you out of the movie right away.
She's got some strong similarities, though. She does.
Yeah.
Movie
So
magic.
I think better her though than somebody that looks absolutely nothing like Carrie Fisher.
Then Lupita Nyong'o or somebody?
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. Wow.
That's
You know what I mean? Because they don't look anything alike. I mean, they just don't. So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. 12 years as senator?
12 years of Jedi.
Or Sith. We'll see. Anyway, yeah, no, I think that is interesting. I'm not, I don't know. I just think it's exciting that we have so much Star Wars news to talk about. I know, Jim, you get a little Star Wars news fatigued. But after this big dry spell, after that god-awful, prequel trilogy, it's just nice to have fun things to talk about. The movie could still be a steaming pile of shit. Who knows? But I don't know. I enjoy talking about these news bits.
I'm a little worried about the idea of a flashback in general.
Are you? How come?
I feel like they're already taking the movie 35 years ahead. Let's just keep going with it to fill in those gaps. I think we can kind of let our own imaginations fill in the backstories, and we've got Rebels coming and stuff like that. My fear is that the flashback is actually going to be an attempt to tie it into Rebels, and might just be kind of cheaply done.
I can see Mike, that. I think you're onto something there, in that a lot of times they try to tie it back to the original properties as a method of fan service, and they go overboard, and they don't keep their own vision. You know what I mean? It's like they abandon their own vision to try to fall in line with something that was done before, and that can be really bad.
That's true.
Well, I mean, it's almost better, like you said, Mike, if they just forget about that old stuff, not even bring some of those old characters back. I mean, why do they have to?
Because it's Princess Leia, goddammit.
Well, I mean, they can mention them if they do factor into the story, and maybe even show their older selves. This movie is what, like how many years in the future?
35.
35 years, right? Actual time. So, yeah, I mean, if their older selves are around and they want to put them in the movie, to call back to that, that's fine. But I don't know.
Now, realistically, we may be talking about, we don't know the scope of this either. It could be a very, very quick flashback, something that's not too distracting from the plot or story. Yeah. And I would hope for something more like that, something that's more part of, a stylistic flashback as opposed to, now's the part where we do 10 minutes of showing what happened in this sequence or what have you.
Right.
But again, this is all conjecture about a film that...
But now that we know it's a different person playing Leia, when they do flashback, we as fans who know this are going to be thinking in our heads, kind of waiting for that moment and scrutinizing it and saying, "Oh, she doesn't look anything. She doesn't really look that much like her mother. I know it's not her." And that's out of the movie for me. That's
it's going to be a Seth MacFarlane-esque aside, I bet. Han and Leia are going to be sitting around the hollow chest table, sipping hot cocoa, and Han's going to be like, "Hey, Leia, you remember that time you put cinnamon buns in your hair for the first time?" Yeah. And then we'll see anyway.
No flashback to it.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's going to be a madcap comedy as successful as A Million Ways to Die in the West.
A Million Ways to Die on Tatooine. Okay. Or Alderaan, even.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. Well, excellent news bit choice there, Mike. For me, I'm actually cheating. We didn't get to record Movie Bears Podcast TV this week because of some scheduling stuff that happened. So I had a really cool news bit that I'm actually going to share here because, you know what? I can do that. It's okay. So it's in regards to Better Call Saul, the Breaking Bad spinoff show. Mike, did you watch Breaking Bad at all?
I am one of those who did not.
What?
I know. It's in my.
It's in your queue.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, we won't spoil you because it's an amazing series. But anyway, so one of the characters, Saul, is a lawyer, and they've decided that this series is basically going to flash back and forth like through his career. So we may get to see what happened after Breaking Bad. We may get stories happening concurrently with what was going on in Breaking Bad. We'll get things that happened before Breaking Bad, and so Bryan Cranston and Aaron Paul have both apparently agreed to come on and do some cameos at some point when it's appropriate to the story, without it being like a cameo crazy fest. Mike Ehrmantraut, one of my favorite characters on Breaking Bad, his character is back as a regular for the show. The only negative news is that it's now been pushed back to early 2015 instead of this coming November. So. Wah, 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 wah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Nice. But I've been jonesing for the Breaking Bad Blue Meth world, and I know this won't exactly be, Walter White 2.0, but I love the character of Saul Goodman, and I'm interested to see where the series goes. Jim, Will, are you guys ambivalent about this? Are you excited?
It's hard. Like, I loved Breaking Bad. It's one of my top television shows. I think that it did a lot of great things in a very concise set of episodes. Like, it's not one of those shows that went on for 26 seasons or what have you. It's a very top-notch show for me, and it ended in a way that you have this completely contained story start to finish. So part of me is like, I don't know if I want to go back to the world because I enjoyed so much what I saw in Breaking Bad that it's going to be hard for it to. There's a lot of potential for it to maybe let me down in some places, and my bar is already set so high. I don't know how much room there is for me to improve my feelings already. That said, AMC, one of the things I saw is despite moving back the opening to beginning of 2015, they have enough faith in the show that they've already approved it for a second season. So that's not something that happens too often, where they approve the second series before the first episode ever airs. So I'm going to be watching it. And I'm going to be excited about watching it. Just there's that niggling part of my brain that says man, I don't know if this is going to be exactly what I want, or if there's any potential for me to for it to spoil the series for me. So I don't know.
Yeah, I'm super excited for it. I guess I haven't heard much about it, which is good in my book anyway. That I don't know what the tone of this series is going to be. As we know, and I won't spoil Mike, but when the Saul character was involved in the story, there tended to be a lot of certainly there was drama, but there was also some black comedy involved, dark comedy involved especially when he was in the storyline. So I wonder if they're going to continue kind of that dark comedy-ish tone for the overall series, or kind of keep it about the same as Breaking Bad was, which was really heavy on the drama. So yeah, I don't know what the tone's going to be. Hopefully they'll do something different. I don't really want to see another Breaking Bad, or them try to make it another Breaking Bad. I want to see Saul's show, and I want to see what new they can bring to the table. That's what excites me.
I just hope we get some Huel. I hope Huel comes back.
Huel, yes, we probably will, right?
Chub Love.
Huel, and wasn't there another dude? I don't know.
Yes, but I forget his name. Something. Yeah. Anyway,
we'll have to get to that. We'll have to get to that box set one of these times.
I know that barrel is just collecting dust up on the mantle there. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, interesting movie news bits. How do you guys feel about talking about giant robots that transform into things?
I like it.
Are you ready for that? Ready for How about racist robots that transform into things?
Yeah, we can talk about some of those too.
All right, well, here we go. Our review of the new Michael Bay film, Transformers: Age of Extinction. Optimus Prime. Sam Witwicky. Anyway, so we're back for another Transformers extravaganza. I don't know. This is going to be an interesting conversation, I feel. Just to kind of set some ground rules real quick, we're going to start off with some non-spoiler advice. So I do see a few of you who are watching the live stream right now. Fear not, if you have not seen the movie, we'll give you ample warning before we go into spoilers. Same to those of you who are listening through iTunes and Stitcher. Guys, real quick and dirty, because we have a lot to discuss. What are your non-spoilery recommendations? Mike, let's start with you. Do you think people should go see this in theaters, wait for rental, or skip it entirely?
I'm going to say see it in the theater, but skip IMAX and skip 3D. I definitely would see it in the theater.
All right. Interesting. Okay. All right. Will, what about you? Would you agree with what Mike says?
Big disclaimer up front, like, for all of our listeners, and this applies for now, and this applies for once we get into the spoiler section, more so than a lot of things. And I think Jim and I were really chatting about this a lot before the show. Like, dude, these Transformers films exist in a really weird place, right? Like, every couple of years, like, a new one of them gets trotted out, and then, like, all the critics line up, and they take turns bashing him. Like, he becomes the piñata. But then the public goes out in droves to see the films anyway. So it's going to be one of those things where there were a lot of things, and, you know, kind of going back to the original question, like, I didn't enjoy this film a whole lot, and there's a lot of things that I saw as problematic about it. But one of the things that we're gonna, or I'm gonna at least try to do not to do, is I'm gonna try not to like burn Michael Bay in effigy for this, because there are actually some
as some are known to do.
As you know, that's the critical game. Like, I think a lot of there's a lot of it. There's like a big critical circle jerk to see who can be like the funniest person to trash Michael Bay when one of these movies comes out.
Yeah.
That's just like one of the things that happens. And so I don't want to like say like, you know, I don't want to use that as like a shield and say like, no, I'm not gonna speak negatively about this film, because again, there are some things I did not enjoy that much, and I don't recommend it on the whole. But there are a couple of positives. I think that this is to me, the best of the Transformers films. Still not a great film. Still not a good film to me. But I think that there are some places where Michael Bay cut out a little bit of his ridiculousness and tried to focus a little bit more on plot. We'll talk about how effective that is in the spoiler section, but I did see some things where, like, I gave him a gold star for, like, really trying some new things within the franchise. So, should you go see it? No, but honestly, based on the numbers of people that have already seen it, if you wanted to go see it, you probably already have. If you're there's not a lot of people that are on the fence with Transformers, probably. You either, like, say, fuck Michael Bay, or I already saw it. So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So Will, let me just clarify. If I'm hearing you right, you don't want a movie bear circle jerk? Is that right?
Well, I mean...
Not for the sole
that's all fair.
Not for the sole purpose of tearing down Michael Bay.
Yeah, Michael Bay's not invited.
Oh, my God.
Well, that's good, because he needs a haircut. But anyway. All right. Jim, what about you?
Well, I like Will. I didn't really enjoy. I don't know anybody who said they really, you know, maybe enjoyed this movie. This is not a movie. I think this is a movie that's hard to enjoy. There's a lot thrown at you in this movie. I didn't enjoy it. I probably will never ever go back and watch it again. It's one of those movies that when you get out of this movie. At 2 hours and 45 minutes in length, not counting all the trailers that you sat through at the beginning of the movie, I mean, you're attached to that seat for 3 hours, and that's a bladder retention endurance test that I did not pass. I did have to get up and, you know, answer the call of nature one time.
Funny enough, Will pass the bladder endurance test.
I did. I'm like mouse bladder guy. Like, I watch like an hour and a half movie, and I'm like halfway through, just like, oh, sorry, I gotta go. But yeah, this one I made it all the way to the end. So
wow.
Yeah, that's something.
That's pretty darn good. Yeah, I mean, I give this movie, even though I didn't enjoy it, I give this movie a lot of credit for being really like nothing else I don't think I've ever seen on the screen before. There's just so much of what we've come to expect from Michael Bay crammed into like it's a small thing, but put in this movie. This movie is so over the top in if not quality, but there are some quality parts of this movie, definitely of quantity. It's just like it's like overindulging at a buffet of robots. I mean, that's kind of what you get out of this movie. It's a spectacle of CGI effects and action. I'll just say that again, it was on a different level. I would say that if I think people should probably see this movie, but don't expect that you're gonna be anything but drained after this movie. And not because it's a great story or it's emotionally attached. You're gonna feel like you have been through the ringer when you get out of this movie. But I think if you have a curiosity at all about the Transformers series, then you're going to want to see this movie. People who are looking for a story, a plot that hangs together, you probably not want to go to see this movie. So that's how I feel about it. As far as the 3D, we saw it in not real IMAX. We saw it in LIMAX, right, Brad?
Yes, we saw it in IMAX. That's a lie, hence it's LIMAX.
LIMAX, but 3D with great sound and all that stuff. I don't know. I think for the action scenes, it probably enhanced my watching a little bit. I don't know if I'd go full IMAX on this one, although they say that parts of it was shot in IMAX, so we didn't get to see exactly which parts. But this is a movie it's really tough to qualify. Other than to know it did make an impression on me for being very, very tiresome, I guess.
I walked out with a headache. Maybe it wasn't the 3D. Maybe it was just the movie.
I think there's something to that. I had a really bad headache too. Yeah. I think you just get like action fatigue, watching so much. But
I want that quote on the poster. I walked out with a headache.
Oh boy. All right. Let's see. For me,
your turn.
Now light our darkest hour. You got the touch, So I mentioned that Transformers the movie homage because I think this movie reunites two things I really love, and that's Transformers and Marky Mark of the Funky Bunch. A fun connection, Boogie Nights, Mark Wahlberg is singing that Stan Bush song made famous by Transformers the movie. So
right.
I was having like a little geekgasm, like Boogie Nights meets Transformers meets Stan Bush. Anyway, this movie is a mixed bag for me, guys, I will say, because I love the Transformers. I'm really glad that Shia LaBeouf is no longer involved in these films, thank God. And I think Marky Mark was the biggest highlight for me of this film. I really enjoyed him in the role. I like the Wahlberg. He's a good guy. It felt a little more adult to me than the Sam Witwicky humor that I hated so much in the first three films. And sorry for my god-awful Optimus Prime impressions tonight, guys. But I thought he brought some goodness. Unfortunately, I just feel like a lot of the negatives outweigh that. And I think this movie easily could have been at least 45 minutes shorter. And so, Mike, you brought up a great point about walking out with a headache. It was the same thing for me. Like halfway into the movie, I mean, shit is like blowing up. Sometimes for like no reason, you're like, "What's blowing up? I don't understand. Why are there fireworks right now? I don't get it." But it's like I think my eyes just got tired and my brain started shutting down. And by about 3/4 of the way through the film, I won't spoil yet, but there's this big action sequence, that takes place in China, and it's like. It's in the trailers, guys. It's not a spoiler. And at that point, I just couldn't pay attention anymore. I just had to close my eyes for a little while because I just couldn't stay with it. Eventually, of course, I came back to it. But I don't know. I just there are some things I really like about this film, but there's a lot that I just really don't. I don't appreciate either. But like Will, I'm going to try not to be as curmudgeonly old man. Negative. Let's beat down on Michael Bay because at the end of the day, it's a Transformers movie, and you have to remember this isn't going for an Oscar. This isn't trying to be Beasts of the Southern Wild. You know what I mean? Like it's really just like a fun summer superhero kind of flick, and when you judge it sort of on that basis, for me, I guess it changes things a little bit, but yeah. I'm really anxious to talk spoilers. Do we have anything else non-spoilery we need to discuss before we move on?
Nothing major. I mean, there's a good film buried in this movie somewhere.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's talk about where that is in spoilers.
All right. So just to sum it up for me, I would actually go see it in theaters. I think it deserves to be seen on the big screen if you're going to see it. I don't know that watching this on your TV, for the first, time that you're going to see this movie is really worth it. But definitely go see it in theaters when you can appreciate the spectacle. Just take a little neck pillow so that if you need to rest your eyes a little bit, you're good to go. Otherwise, all right, here we go. We're going into spoilers. So if you are still listening, you may want to step away for half an hour and then come back because you won't want to miss our plugs this week. We've got some cool stuff coming up for you. But for the next half hour or so, we will be spoiling the bejesus out of the plot of this film. So you listen at your own peril. Here we go. Good to go. Where do you guys want to start?
I want to know if anybody has an answer to a burning question that I've had since I saw the movie.
Preparation.
How does a truck tractor get inside an abandoned old movie house?
I had that question too.
No one knows the answer to that. Like he's just there. He's there.
Did they explain it at all in the movie? Did they say
no?
Because this is in Chicago, right?
If we were to tear apart the plot holes in this film, this was set in Paris, Texas, which is not terribly far from me. If you were to tear apart the plot holes in this film, like we could easily be here another 4 hours. That was the first of a few. Like, I mean, at the same time, like we got this dude in Paris, Texas, who's like driving around with a surfboard on top of his car. Well, Paris, Texas is like 6 hours or more from the nearest body of water.
To be fair, there is a line when he first arrives that he's just coming back from being gone a while. So he's just coming back from this surfing adventure. And since obviously you can fucking repair an Autobot in like an hour and a half, he hasn't had a chance to take a surfboard down.
That's how to definitively close a plot hole right there.
But no, I think the place I think could be an interesting place to start. And Brad, you hit on it before. Is Mark Wahlberg in this? Because I think to me, when I talk about the things that really worked for me about this film, I think there were a couple of action sequences that worked for me. There were some that didn't. There's just a lot of like things that are just all over the board. But Mark Wahlberg is one of those guys who I don't think that he was necessarily good in this. Like, he wasn't bad, but I don't think he was necessarily good in this. But he is a guy who, like, whenever he does a line read, he's, like, ridiculoly sincere with any line that he gives. Like, he's just, like, he's got this way of saying a line that makes you, like, feel like he is, like, we found a Transformer. This is a Transformer. We need to do something about it. Like, that's just the way he is. And the thing is like, we just came off of Shia LaBeouf, who was, like, he was very hard to take seriously. And Mark Wahlberg, like, his lines are almost taken too seriously, and it's not great necessarily line reading, but it gave the film like a weird level of believability that I don't think that the other three had. So, that's not necessarily high praise. Like, it's not great acting, but it works for this. But it did elevate this film higher than I think it should have or could have been.
Mike, where do you fall on the Mark Wahlberg scale here? Was he helpful or a hindrance?
Well, I actually thought that he brought something new and fresh to the franchise. Better looks for one, but I even liked the family dynamic that the character had, and despite it being almost exactly the same family dynamic as Armageddon, I thought that it was. I liked him.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I've always liked Wahlberg, first of all, but I thought in this movie, I mean, I liked him much better, and I was able to connect with that character a lot better than the Sam Witwicky character played by Shia LaBeouf, who was always just too goofy for me. Like, he had that goofy edge, and Will, I think you hit on it. He had a kind of Cade Yeager was the character's name, played by Wahlberg. He had a much more earnest quality to him. And, you know, he was the earnest guy. He's the inventor, the tinkerer in the garage. He's struggling to keep the family together. And all that is cliched. Yeah, we get it. But I did feel like that it got me to feel some empathy for him that I never felt for the previous characters. And I did like the beginning of this movie. The setup I thought was really good. The first 20 to 25 minutes were pretty awesome, I thought. And it did at some point go off the rails for me, Will, especially in the second act.
Oh boy!
Yes.
Oh,
The
boy.
second act
And they
was
brought
my
in
dark
they
spot.
brought in all when they tried to like paste the plot in cut and paste a complicated plot into what should be a simple story of good robots against bad robots or
There were
whatever.
too many side characters.
What's that, Mike?
I said there were too many side characters.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
agree.
they had the. I mean, I liked Stanley Tucci, but didn't really dig his character at all in this movie. You had a couple of chicks that he was associated with. I had no idea what the hell they were doing in the movie.
Yeah.
But and you also had the young chick who was Cade Yeager's daughter, who was in the movie to be, of course, Michael Bay's sexy little almost legal thing. And you have to put that in. You have to put some of that sex appeal in there, I guess, for some of the the straight pubescent and prepubescent dudes that are going to see these movies.
That's true.
Yeah. I did. Oh my gosh, I did have a bit of a problem with the actual the delivery of her as the sex object. This again, we're in spoiler territory. Like they make this big point of saying that I'm only 17 and the age of consent for a sexual relationship in the state of Texas, where I live, is 18. They make a point of that in the film. They admit
Romeo and Juliet law.
Yeah. But what's creepy about it is the dude is a card-carrying, he carries around a card so that he can bang this 17-year-old.
And show the dads, dude, I'm legal.
This guy is honestly, if 10 years time, if I don't see that Shane character on a sex offender registry, I would be surprised. That is just really creepy. And the thing is you didn't have to include that. She's a high school senior, right? So you could have very easily just made her character 18, or guess what? Just don't mention her age, and no one will really give a shit. But the fact that they drew attention to it is the reason that I'm drawing attention to it now. Michael Bay made it creepy, so I'm creeped out by it. So that was a problem I had with the Tessa character. It's just kind of how she was used.
Yeah,
but at least.
Go ahead, Brad.
No, you go ahead. What were you gonna say?
I mean, why does she have to be a 17-year-old high school student? Why couldn't she be an 18-year-old senior? I mean, I just don't understand unless the creators of the movie have some weird predilection for underage girls. I have no idea.
I don't know.
Well, look, there's a machismo to these things, right? Do you remember when the Olsen twins were about to come of age and just a bunch of old straight guys would have countdowns boy, they're gonna be turning of age soon. It's come on guys, that's creepy. So I think that they're kind of playing off of that that humor, that machismo of yeah, I got a 17-year-old. 17-year-olds are hot. Yeah, didn't work for me because it distracted from. I thought that they could have used that time instead to have developed the Tessa character who. They started giving her personality, right? At the beginning, she's like, "Man, I want to get into school. I need to be the more level-headed one." And then around that point, she stops being a person and just starts being the damsel in distress / girlfriend / daughter. Her role at that point is 100% defined by the guys. So I felt that was a wrong turn for what could have made for a better heroine than what we got from Megan Fox.
Yeah, I agree. At least the Irish boyfriend was hot. Even if he was a pussy.
Yeah. He was another one I thought was just superfluous to the whole movie.
He was superfluous, but he was super nice to look at least for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
Didn't register for me. Yeah.
He didn't have any fluff, so you guys aren't interested. Mike, you can back me up, right? He was hot, right?
Absolutely.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
See.
But that whole beginning part, like I said, it worked for me in a way, up to a certain point. Like I think when the agents showed up at the farm, I think that's where it really went haywire for me. I think that was about 20 or 25 minutes in. I actually even liked, and Brad might disagree with me on this because I don't think he cares for the actor, but I even liked T.J. Miller, who was the goofy sidekick dude.
The surfboard dude from Silicon Valley.
Yeah, the surfer guy. I like that guy in Silicon Valley. I don't know if you guys watch that show, but Brad doesn't really like it, but I kind of dig it.
So Brad, you might like this story. I tapered off of Silicon Valley because of that actor and that character.
Oh, tell me more about this. I would like to hear about this.
He's just like such a discordant character for that particular show. He was just like it was very kind of we're getting into like terribly different territory with Silicon Valley the show, but I thought that character didn't add anything. He was just kind of a guy who had this one note that he played in all of his scenes, and I don't necessarily think that that's necessarily a bad thing for the actor. That was the role. He happened to play the role a particular way, and I think he got a very similar role here in Transformers. So for me, it was like he was just the type of character that like it became hard to watch him on the show, and there were other things that didn't really do it for me about the show, but I think he was like the thing that if I go back and say like, yeah, what turned me off, I think it was that character.
To be really honest, did you finish the first season, Will?
No, I'm like 4 episodes in. Like I couldn't.
Okay, so to be really honest with you, and Jim, don't shit a brick or anything, but I actually really liked some stuff that happened with this character toward the end of the season that was sort of redemptive for me and made me kind of like him. Yeah.
That's good. That's good to hear.
Yeah, absolutely.
I still have them on my DVR, so I'll probably dust them off like now that we're kind of in between Game of Thrones and stuff like that.
Might be good to circle back, but yeah, Jim. I mean, I know what you're saying with that character, that actor. I'm not his biggest fan, but I didn't think he was that terrible. I just feel kind of like what you said, Mike. We've got so many side characters. It's like, why do we need like all of this? Why did we need his character? What purpose did T.J. Miller really serve beyond, I guess, a couple of like physical comedy laughs? Was there really a purpose?
Plot-wise, there was one role, and that was just to call the CIA agents. But really, that's all he really contributed was to get the CIA agents there. But the thing is like with a strong script, you could have easily had like the Tessa and Cade had been arguing about like where we're going to get money from here on out. So what if instead the daughter had been the one that had reported this, and then now you've got this like conflict between the two of them through the rest of the film? Just cut that character out completely and develop that relationship. Just an idea. I don't know.
I think he was an easy first casualty.
And that's a good point. Yeah. They made him over the top, and they made him like responsible for something that we as the audience see as ridiculously like bad, like something we don't want to see happen. So when he dies, like stakes are high, but we're not bummed.
Yeah, I actually got a little bit of satisfaction out of watching him get flash fried. I thought it was fun, so I liked that moment. But yeah, so okay, let's talk about the Transformers. So shit has obviously gone down since Dark of the Moon. Transformers are in hiding. The government's saying they're hunting down the remaining Decepticons, but guess what? They're actually killing Autobots too. And I don't know, were you guys disturbed at all, like watching Ratchet get pulled apart and shot in the head?
Yes.
Were you?
I was. I thought that was a little brutal for a family movie. I mean, maybe not family movie, but kids are going to watch this movie.
Yeah, it's uncomfortable, right? Like, and this is a Transformer, yay Autobots, like go kick the Decepticons' butts, and all of a sudden we're seeing one just like not just like a cutaway death, like it's brutal. Like they show like mercy. they show, like, you can see the exact moment where Ratchet is no longer alive. Like, you can like clock that moment on screen, and that's disturbing.
I mean, you guys are touching on a scene that I actually really liked. I mean, yeah, I think it was strong for kids. I don't necessarily think these movies should have a PG-13 rating anyway, at least not the way they're made. It's crazy that some of these movies get PG-13 while other movies get R ratings because they have like the word "fuck" in them maybe too many times. Like a movie Chef, for instance, right?
Right.
It's R-rated and this is PG-13. So, you know, which one's better for kids? Anyway, that's another whole conversation. But I really dug that scene, not because I wanted to see Ratchet get killed brutally, you know, hunted down and killed, but it jacked up the stakes for me. Like, you know, they didn't do anything with it after that, but it kind of made me feel like, holy shit, this is something real going on here that, you know, is pretty brutal. And, you know, I felt like, hey, this, you know, we got to stop, you know, find a way to stop what's going on here. It's just bad juju. That's a one point in the movie that actually made me kind of feel not numb, like oh my God, look what they're doing. So I kind of dug that scene. I prefer that scene was in the movie than if it wasn't in the movie. I don't know.
Especially because there were so many other sequences in the film that were padding. Like, you can at least point to that sequence and say, this is a sequence that is important for the narrative because it shows, like, here's what Lockjaw is doing and here's why the humans are complicit in it. And so it kind of sets up the, you know, hey, the Autobots saying, you know, what the fuck, humans? Like, what's going on here? Like, it sets up that that kind of tension from the get-go. It adds some stakes, where if you would cut out, like, for me, like, you know, maybe the T.J. Miller character, or if you cut out, like, half of the action sequence in the very middle of the film, because there were a lot that just, for me, were just kind of boring, like more explosions, just more explosions. Like, I think that this was a scene that needed to be in the film, and I think it's more important than, again, a lot of the stuff that we did get.
Yeah, I agree. And as an introduction to Lockdown, you know, I think is a fascinating villain character. I actually really liked him. I do continue to have issues with the human, like, face and mouths on the robots. That's still bothering me a little bit. I didn't appreciate that about his design. I really liked this scene as sort of an introduction to, like, his brutality. But I don't know. We get the whole, like, government sort of, like, CIA, you know, whatever the fuck, like, taking down the Transformers.
They had a name. I forget the name of the organization.
They were like, God, yeah, it's something weird, like Coffin Wind or something like that.
Kelsey Grammer Brigade, you know, the Fraser cunts or something. Who knows? It's Kira, who likes to ride on shoulders. There she is. Aw. Anyway, so yeah, so let's see, what else? What do you guys think of the whole, like, speaking of Lockdown, so he's like an intergalactic bounty hunter, and he has a ship on Earth, and apparently he's got the Dinobots hanging out on a ship. Okay, that's random. But the like the action sequences involving the ship and what was happening there, did that really fire on all cylinders for you guys, or is that the boring part you're talking about?
That was the boring part for me.
Really?
I don't know if you guys agree. Well, they get on the ship. You've got these Transformers, and I want to talk in a minute about the Transformers design because I like these unique designs that we got in this film. But you get this part where you've got these what was it, Hound, Drift, and Crossfire or Crosshairs all sneak onto the ship, and it's like, oh boy, man, Transformers, man, they're on the ship. There's all these bad robots, man. Shit's gonna go down. I'm ready to see some fights. And then what you get is, like, Hound, like, shoots an alien in a cage. Drift pulls his sword and is like, kill you! It's some random thing. Crosshairs is just like, oh, I don't want to do this. Like you get, like, these moments of just like, what the fuck was this scene even for? Yeah. It's just random extra stuff that made it to where when we got to the action points, it's like, man, I just want to see something else. Show me something else because I'm done with Lockdown Ship.
Yeah, I think that was part of the movie I actually checked out of, and may even actually had used my bathroom break at that point. But yeah, that whole second middle portion of the movie was kind of horrible for me. but it did pick up again in the third act. You know, we had the Dinobots come in at the end, near the end there. I have a question for you guys. There was a cool scene again at the beginning. I thought the first act of this movie, most of it, was really, really well done. There was a scene that was kind of a flashback scene to Decepticons invading Earth, prehistoric Earth, and setting the seed or whatever they call it devices and causing the dinosaurs to go extinct, right?
They're planting their seed on Earth.
Right.
Oh my!
Planting their seed. Yes. Did that the question? Another question I have: did that have anything to do with the Dinobots at all?
Nope, not a damn thing. Those dinosaurs that were made of transformium at the beginning were not at all related to the Dinobots. Again, that's just more like extra stuff. Mike, how did you feel about the whole lockdown ship thing? Like, where were you at for that sequence?
So, for the ship itself, I thought the ship was cool to look at. I expected so much more, though. Thinking they're in this big ship. It looked like there were drones. I was expecting like fight after fight. You know, the Decepticon drones coming in but it fell really flat with just. There's no way that those humans would have just been able to survive her running around the ship, and something would have got her. That stuff to me became very unbelievable.
Yeah, she was like the Carl of Walking Dead, like on that show.
Just die already. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where you're right. The ship design was really cool, and you look at it from the outside, this thing's massive, right? Like, this is a huge ship. And then once they get inside of it, to me, it felt very small and claustrophobic. Like, they didn't explore the space or do enough with it to make it really feel like the inside matched the grandeur of the external design.
I didn't understand how so much of it seemed like it was open space. Like,
yeah.
There were no glass or anything. It just looked like it was just open. And if that was in space, robots or not, things are going to go flying, don't you think?
Yeah.
I
can only assume there's some sort of force field or something that, like, I don't know. When you have to assume that much, it pulls you out of the movie a little bit.
Yeah.
We live in a world where the super rare element that transformers are made of is called transformium.
Transformium? Oh, Jesus.
So in that type of world, I'm willing to buy a lot of
you got to remember you're in a world where we have giant talking robotic dinosaurs. So.
Well, did the Dinobots? Did they talk? They didn't.
I don't think they talked in this movie, did they?
No.
No.
Well, they were able to understand because somebody had to speak Chinese to them.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I'm not saying that like, you know, Grimlock should have been like, me Grimlock, no like, lockdown.
Yeah.
You know, but at least they could have given him some kind of like voice or personality. Like, I don't understand. First of all, the Dinobots are in the movie for like all of fucking 5 seconds.
Right.
And second, like, yeah, they look cool, but we really didn't get to see much of their personality. You know what I mean? Like, for a movie that is really billed as like Dinobots and Transformers, it just you know, what's Extinct, I guess, is their character development, because
they had less screen time than Godzilla did in his movie.
Yeah, it almost feels like someone designed a poster and put Grimlock on it with Optimus Prime, and then at that point they're like, well, shit, now we got to put these guys in the movie. Do we have a spot? Let's put them in the finale. The thing is like the motivations, like the inclusion of the Dinobots is dumb. Like, it doesn't really do it. It's not really like well scripted, well plotted out. Like, once they get into the actual fray, I thought they looked really cool in the fights themselves.
I agree.
Like, they looked cool.
Yeah.
But it felt like I don't know if that was enough for me. Like, just like this quick, like, Optimus Prime fights the leader. Now they bow to me. Now let's go, and now let's release them into the wilderness to, you know, because that's not going to go bad. Yeah, it's just very weird to me.
I almost feel like it would have been better off if it was the Dinobots that were the man-made Transformers.
That would be awesome.
Thank you.
That would like they find. Okay, let's parse this out. They find the fossils coated in transformium, and they're able to make them into the robots, and then they attack everything, and the Transformers have to basically like wrest control away. And Mike, why are you not working for Michael Bay as a writer?
Yeah,
that would be awesome.
He hasn't returned my calls yet, but I'm working on it.
T5, baby, T5.
Michael Bay, if you're listening, get this guy on your team.
You got to be loving some lovins.
If Michael Bay's listening.
You got to wonder where the series goes from here. I mean, everything that they threw into this movie, what the hell are they going to do for the next movie?
Well, we've got that, right? The Galvatron and his like fake Transformers. Like at the end of the film, like they're just like, man, Galvatron got away, and Optimus Prime was just like, oh fuck it, I'm flying off into space. Like they've left Galvatron to do stuff. So they've got really two things they can do: what's going on with Galvatron on Earth, and like Optimus Prime going after the creators in space. So that could be actually two more films.
Can I ask a question? Okay. So Optimus Prime apparently can fly without his jetpack. They made a big deal of needing, the Jetfire parts to fly before, but Optimus doesn't have a hyperdrive built in somewhere, does he? Like, I mean, is he going to be flying at subluminal speeds, like, to go meet his creators? Like, that didn't really make a lot of sense to me. I could see if maybe he had, like, gotten in lockdown ship or something and stolen that, but just, like, flying Superman style up into space seemed nonsensical.
He flew to the moon, grabbed the ship that was still there, and then took off.
Oh, that's what he did. See, there we go. That makes sense. Okay.
There's your get your writing credit. Seriously, like you could be the plot hole filler. And it's weird though. Like he did fly at the end of this movie, and there were scenes earlier in the film where it's just like, come on, Optimus, like why didn't you fly there if you could have just done it all along? I don't know. I mean,
giant sword. Like, this is the giant sword syndrome, I call it.
Right.
Yeah. Well, because it's like, I mean, it raises a real question for me, and I'm not trying to be a negative basher, but like, in that first half an hour of the film, Optimus is trying to get away from this government agency or whatever that's trying to kill him. Why? I mean, if he can fly into outer space, why didn't he just fly away? Like, I don't know. I don't understand.
Because he knew the humans would need him.
Oh, is that
well,
what
and there were other Autobots still there. He didn't want to leave them behind.
Oh, okay. I see. All right. Whatever.
Interestingly enough, those other Autobots were just kind of all chilling in the desert. Like all these Autobots that went into hiding, kind of spread across the Earth. Like they were all like hiding in like the same desert with, I guess, within like a 5-mile radius. Like when he puts the call out to the Autobots, like they just get together really quickly without much to do. Oh, I did. I mentioned earlier, like, what did you guys think about the designs of Hound, Drift, and Crosshairs? Because for me, I kind of liked that I could tell them apart more than I could some of the Transformers in the earlier films.
I thought they did a better job this time with that.
Agreed. I totally agree. It was much easier to differentiate what was going on. I do have a problem with Hound, though. What was he smoking?
Like an artillery shell, right? Like, yeah, I mean, that...
Yeah. It's supposed to be like a bullet or something, yeah.
Right. So, like, did he, like, make this thing just to look cool? Because, like, is there transformium nicotine or something? Like, what is the purpose of that?
He went to school too close to a billboard that had Joe Camel on it, and he was hooked from a really young age. He just wants to look cool. He thinks it makes his friends look cool. He's a social smoker, really.
I gotta say that I don't believe that they used the other Transformers very well. I mean, it was kind of a weird in-between point with me. Like, you should use them as part of the main storyline and battles, or have them team up in some way for some of this stuff. I didn't see much of that. I mean, there was a little bit. I didn't. I almost got the impression that like this movie was basically Optimus against the Galvatron and Optimus, and when the Dinobots showed up, those other dudes were like chopped liver at that point.
I didn't understand the infighting. It seemed to just come out of nowhere.
Yeah, these are like the heroic Autobots of our youth, right? Like, I'm going to kill you. You're a coward. Let's kill the humans. Autobots.
Right.
Well, you mean like when they got together out in the desert?
Yeah, they're all around the campfire and then they're fighting each other. It's like
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Is that a carryover? Is that a carryover from like the original animated movie or TV show or something?
Well, I mean, some of the Transformers always, you know what I mean, like they had some personality issues. There was some friction, especially some of the more rebellious Transformers, but not on that level that I'm remembering.
Yeah, it was just, you're right, Mike. It felt very weird to me, that whole scene. And that's fine if you're going to have a come together moment and then go out and battle as a team and stuff. But it seemed like they built up to that, but they never carried it through because it was shortly after that the Dinobots came on the scene.
Yeah, I did feel like Hound, which is the one John Goodman voiced. Like, dude, he got a lot of lines, and he got a lot of like whenever there was a scene that showed like one of the other Transformers, I think, and I'd be interested to go back and watch it. I'm not going to, but I would venture to say that Hound felt like he even had more screen time than like Bumblebee. But to me, like. And the sequence where like Hound and Cade are like the two that are like kind of like holed up, like fending off all of the fake Transformers that are attacking. Like, I thought that was really cool. Like, Hound was like showing off like his like being a little more bulky and fighting things and throwing grenades and shit, and Cade was shooting things as a human. That was really, really cool. But then you've got Drift and Crosshairs, and I had big problems with them, just because they did nothing but like Drift was just there to be the Asian Autobot. And Crosshairs was just there to underutilize John DiMaggio's voice acting talents.
Right. They really just needed, a robot, I guess, for Ken Watanabe to voice and sound all mystic.
Another thing that kind of bugged me a little bit, did the jumping of locations bother you guys a little bit? I mean, it seemed like they were like, they went from Paris, Texas to Chicago at one point. Were they in Chicago?
They were.
I don't know exactly when. Were they ever in Detroit, or was that just a set that was? I don't know if they were in Detroit. But then they jumped to Hong Kong at some point. Like, oh, well, I need to build my Autobots over in Hong Kong. So, we go over there.
Overseas dollars.
Right.
Well, that's
all that was.
Business reason, but there was barely any plot reason to go over to China.
Yeah. Yep.
Especially considering that whole sequence in China prior to the Dinobots showing up we have Stanley Tucci, who was like he was kind of one of the bad guys all through this film, right? Like, he's the Steve Jobs type character.
Till the end.
Yeah, he's in bed with like Kelsey Grammer in terms of like this plot, and then all of a sudden like Mark Wahlberg calls him up and says, hey, I need you to be a good guy now. And he's like, okay, I'm going to be a good guy now. It's almost like watching my nephew play action figures. Like, this guy needs to be a good guy now. But anyway, so he suddenly becomes a good guy. And then you've got this extended sequence where he's, like, hiding this seed and his bodyguard's coming out. And, of course, because she's Asian, she suddenly becomes a badass martial artist, which was problematic. But it felt like that was another part of that, like, it takes up way too much time. And don't get me wrong, Stanley Tucci was pretty good in this as well. I think his character didn't do much for me, but I thought Stanley Tucci knocked it out of the park, at least in terms of what he brought to the role. But still, there was way too much of him. You mentioned before, like, too many side characters, and I think just that whole part with Stanley Tucci turning good, and now the Asian ninja badass martial artist secretary, or whatever she was, just kind of girlfriendish character, just felt like it was just more padding on a movie that was already way too long.
Yeah, I agree. So real quick, a live comment. Paul Alderete says, I just saw it. There's so much money on the screen. For that, it's a spectacle, but it's so long and same basic story. Aptly put, Paul Alderete.
Yeah, I think bottom line, if you're expecting something new and different from a story in this movie, at least, you're going to be sadly disappointed from a story perspective. I think what you get out of this movie is really just moments, set pieces that happen Some of which are spectacular, and some of which are just numbingly ordinary.
You know what, though? This movie did actually do something that really, really surprised me. Mike, have you seen Man of Steel?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh.
So, spoilers for Man of Steel, potentially. So, like with Man of Steel, our main character who never kills fucking killed a human, which is something Optimus would never do. And I cannot believe... I don't know. I was so numb at that point, I don't think I felt it as strongly as I should. But really looking back on it, it kind of pisses me off that they had Optimus kill him.
Oh, he even announced it up front. If I catch up with so and so, somebody's gonna die or something like that.
Yeah.
I hated that.
Yeah. It was really bad.
It's just like growing up with Transformers, you know, humans are always causing problems to the Transformers. And Optimus's big thing is like, you know, all life is important. You know, we won't extinguish life. And kind of like with Superman, right? And I get so pissed off, like, oh, let's make this gritty and dark and edgy by having our main character, you know, be a flawed, you know, I guess not a flawed hero. I don't see the purpose in it, and it just irks me. I don't know.
And you might even say that in the Man of Steel movie that you can justify it more because this is in that film it's like a young Clark Kent who's like learning more. This is not a young Optimus Prime. This is a guy who's been, you know, 4 films deep. So it's not a character who's developing his moral compass. It's a character who should have already developed it. So in some ways, from that point, it probably makes it even more inexcusable.
Yeah, and he abandons that moral compass in, like, you know, just like that at that one point in the movie. Which as Brad said, he really didn't have to.
Yeah,
right.
Well, I mean, in Man of Steel, you've got Zod, who's as powerful as Superman. If you don't kill him, he's going to destroy the world. Optimus Prime didn't need to kill that person.
Right.
Yeah.
Agreed. Well, guys, we are getting long in the tooth here. We still have plugs to go. I'm gonna throw final thoughts at you. Anything else that needs to be said we've not said already?
Well, I was just curious what you guys thought where they're going with it, and who maybe the creators are, because I have my own theory on that.
I'll let you Transformers guys talk that out. Did the creators even come up in this movie?
They mentioned them, like, I think it was Lockdown mentioned,
Lockdown.
like, there's things beyond the stars creators, or whatever. I don't forget what he says, but he mentions creators.
Because remember, he has to capture Optimus because the creators want him back.
That's right,
That was Lockdown's reason for coming to Earth.
Well, in the final season of the animated series, the creators were the Quintessons.
Right.
And I'm wondering if that's where they're going then, maybe with this. You saw the alien hand in the ship. Maybe they're going that route and bringing something like that in, and maybe bringing Unicron in later too.
Now that I would love to see. I could totally go for some Quintessons and Unicron. Nerd. # whatever.
What?
They'll be on the poster and won't show up until the last.
You'll have to catch me up later, babe.
Yeah, like Unicron will show up for like 5 seconds, you know, but he'll like.
I've come to save the day, or
yeah. Well, Unicron was a big villain.
Or destroy the day.
Yeah,
right.
destroy the day.
Exactly. I love Transformers the movie. I don't know that I love the Transformers movies.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that song needed to have been in this. Yeah, one thing I think I wanted to mention kind of in our closing thoughts, like I said, like, there was a lot in the very, very beginning that I thought was promising about this film. There was like an hour of just wasted space as this film had so many plot lines, which I think is one thing that I thought was a little different from some of the previous ones. I felt like this one had more plot lines. It just didn't really connect them all. It had too many plot lines, no connective tissue, nothing organic about them, and so like Brad mentioned, it's just a few moments. But I will say the very, very end of the film, more so than I was even expecting, there's this fight where it's just like the part where it's just Cade and Optimus fighting Lockjaw. And then like Tessa and Shane come in and help like free the spear that's out of Optimus. Like I liked seeing like the humans play an interesting role in the actual fight versus the big bad. So I thought that, and the music that was playing during that was kind of cool. Like that final fight was actually pretty good. Like I would say that if there was one thing, like that's the spot of the movie. So again, is it enough to salvage the movie for me? No, that whole hour in the middle, like really tanked this. But if you took like a really strong editor and like diced this movie up. Like, I bet you someone could do this on YouTube. They could, like, chop this movie up, trim it down to, like, 90 minutes, maybe an hour and 45, and turn this into a stellar movie on YouTube.
Yeah, I think so. I think in this case, more was not better.
I agree. You guys want to see something awesome?
Sure.
Yes.
It's a normal USB drive. But wait... I was never able to transform Transformers very fast as a kid. I just wasn't able to do it. But check it out. It's become Ravage.
Right on.
It's awesome. 16 gigabytes of Decepticon cat goodness. Anyway. Wasn't that more exciting than the last battle of the movie?
Now
Watching
you're
me transform?
No, well, almost. Well, I have to agree with you. The last battle of the movie I thought was pretty well done. And like I said, the beginning and the end of this movie are pretty solid. And if just, not to beat a dead horse, but there's just a lot of stuff in the middle that just really didn't need to be there.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, guys, we are like I said, super long in the tooth. So plugs, here we go. Quick and dirty. Mike, where can people interact with you online if you want to be interacted with? Or do you have any projects going on you want people to know about?
Well, outside of soliciting Michael Bay for a job, I'm a musician. I play bass, and my band is called The Room Full, and it's It's full with 2 L's, even though it's spelled wrong.
Roomful.
The Room Full. So ReverbNation.com/TheRoomFull. You can check us out there.
Awesome. Sweet. We definitely need to check that out. Slap it a bass, man.
Slap of the bass, man.
Slap at the bass. I'm a master bassist.
Oh, you're a master basser?
Oh, hey.
Master baser. Nice.
Oh, my. Oh, my.
Just bass that thing, baby.
Any day. Anyway, okay, Jim, what have you got this week?
I'm going to plug a trailer that came out, today, for a movie out of the UK called Pride, just the word Pride. I guess it premiered at Cannes, and I watched the trailer today, and it looks really interesting. It's the true story about a group of gay and lesbian activists in the UK back in the 80s who raised money to support the miners' union during a strike over there. But because the union was embarrassed and didn't want an open association with the gays, the gay group actually brought the money and support directly to the miners' families themselves. And that created a very odd and interesting relationship between, this group of gays back in the 80s and the miners' families. It's got a great cast of faces like Bill Nye, Imelda Staunton, who I love, not only because she's great and everything, but she was in the Harry Potter movies as Dolores Umbridge, if you remember her from that. But she also has my hometown in her name, Taunton. So I like her for that. But anyway, this one kind of has an indie feel. It's not a documentary or a super serious drama. It's kind of lighthearted, kind of like a Billy Elliot or the Full Monty. Think about like Queer as Folk meets Norma Ray, almost. And it's really interesting. Go check out the trailer. When I watched the trailer, it kind of brought to mind like a lot of the things that have happened in the gay movement in the past are really the roots of what we're seeing now in terms of marriage equality coming to the forefront and the victories we have there. But anyway, the movie opens September 12th. Go on YouTube, check out the trailer. It's called Pride. Brad, maybe we can put a link to in the show notes.
Yeah, definitely. And if you guys could just email me or chat me links to this stuff, that would be awesome. We'll put
I definitely do it. Yep.
All right, sweet. Okay, Will, how about you?
Yeah, so two things. First one's nice and easy. Check out my blog where I do film reviews. It's at thelinduslist.com. This week I've got a review for Earth to Echo, the kind of Steven Spielberg kids meet alien throwback film that's actually hitting theaters this week. So you'll get to check out my review. But the other thing I wanted to let you guys know about is a film that I saw the same day I saw Transformers as kind of a way of offsetting my carbon footprint. Like I was like, I didn't really want to go see Transformers opening weekend, and so I said, oh, well, I'll go see another film instead with it. So I saw Snowpiercer, which is the new kind of dystopian future film by director Joon-ho Bong, same guy that directed 2006, The Host, which I believe you can still find on.
I love that movie.
Solid film, and in fact, one of the lead of that, an actor named Kang Ho Song, is one of the lead supporting characters in this as well. Snowpiercer is basically like, it's the future. Everything is covered in snow because we fucked up with trying to fix global warming, and all of humanity is on this train. And this train has a class system where the people at the front are the wealthy, the erudite, the ones that kind of live well, and the people at the back of the train, well, don't live as well at all. You've got a stellar lead performance by Chris Evans, who just continuously amazes me when he's in these lead roles, just how good a leading man he is. Brilliant supporting roles by John Hurt is in this. Tilda Swinton. Octavia Spencer is a badass in this. I strongly recommend you check this out. It's one of those things where it's
if
like
you can.
Well, yeah, it is getting nationwide release. Like, it's not a limited release. It's just it's not as many screens, obviously, as Transformers. So sometimes I talk about these films that are much smaller releases, and it's like, yeah, you're probably not going to be able to see them near here. Snowpiercer is out, and it's hitting the theaters. But you may have to do a little bit of digging. But yeah. Go see it. Like, if you want a really, really good action flick, like, a really good sci-fi flick, if you want all of that, and our review of Transformers maybe convinced you that you didn't want to go see it, go do Snowpiercer. It's fucking awesome.
Go
It's
pierce some
for
snow.
sure.
Go pierce some
We
snow.
wanted to see it this weekend and tried to search it out. It's not playing in our town at all.
That's a bummer.
It does open Wednesday here. At the
Yeah,
Lot.
it's opening later. That's all.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, for me this week, real quick, I'm really looking forward to Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. I really liked Rise of the Planet of the Apes, and there's actually a series of 3 prequel short films that have been made that fill the gap between the 2 movies, and they're being released sort of under this title of Before the Dawn, and so the movies take place at 3 points in time. One of them is a year after the simian flu has broken out, so a year after Rise of the Planet of the Apes. Another one is 5 years after that, and then another one that is 10 years after that. And so these movies kind of fill in the gaps of some of the things that have happened between the films. And I haven't gotten to watch all of them yet. I watched the first one, but I don't know. I'm excited to kind of watch the rest of them. The third one comes out tomorrow. So anyway, we'll put links to these. But yeah, check them out before you go see Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. And I think that wraps us up for this week. Yes, guys?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Covered a lot.
All right. Well, Mike, real quick, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on the show this week. Thank you so much for joining us. And for those of you who are listening and not watching on YouTube, you don't get to behold the handsome spectacle that is Mike. So you should go back to our YouTube channel and check it out. He's blushing. He's blushing. I'm going to focus camera. Aw, adorable.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome, Mike. It was our pleasure, definitely. And for those of you out in listener land, thank you so much for tuning in. As always, we heart you guys so much. And we appreciate you supporting the show, telling your friends about us. I'm not sure what we're doing for next week yet. We will figure it out. But everyone have a good July 4th holiday weekend. And, take some of your downtime. Go see some motherfucking movies. Get out of the heat if it's hot. Goodbye, everyone. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.